The sun rose slowly over the Valley of Elah, casting a warm golden light across the hills of ancient Israel. The land was beautiful, yet a heavy sense of fear hung in the air. Two mighty armies stood facing each other across the valley, the army of Israel on one hill and the Philistine army on the other. Between them lay a tense silence, broken only by the sound of wind whispering through the grass. For 40 long days and 40 nights, this place was ruled by fear. Each morning, and again each evening, a giant warrior stepped forward from the Philistine camp. His name was Goliath of Gath. He was taller than any man Israel had ever seen. His bronze helmet gleamed in the sunlight. His armor was thick and heavy, covering him like the scales of a great beast. A massive spear rested in his hand, its iron tip as heavy as a weaver's beam. When Goliath spoke, his voice thundered across the valley, making the very ground tremble. "I defy the armies of Israel," he would roar. "Choose a man to fight me. If he defeats me, we will serve you. But if I defeat him, you will serve us." Every time Goliath's challenge echoed, the soldiers of Israel trembled. Strong men lowered their eyes in shame. Brave warriors who had won countless battles stepped back into the shadows. Even King Saul, a man known for his height and strength, felt fear grip his heart. No one stepped forward, no one answered the challenge. Fear had become their daily companion, a shadow they couldn't escape. Meanwhile, far from the battlefield, in the quiet town of Bethlehem, a young shepherd named David was tending his father's sheep. David was the youngest of 8 sons, and while his older brothers were with the army, he was seen as just a boy. But David had a heart full of courage and a faith that was stronger than any giant's armor. He wasn't just watching sheep. He was learning to be a protector. When a lion or a bear came to attack his flock, David didn't run. He faced the danger head-on, trusting in God to give him strength. He knew that true power didn't come from size or weapons, but from a source much greater. One day, David's father, Jesse, called him. "Take this food to your brothers at the camp," he said, "and see how they are doing." David obeyed, loading up a donkey with roasted grain, bread, and cheese. He left his flock with another shepherd and set off on the journey to the Valley of Elah. He had no idea that this simple errand was about to change his life and the course of history forever. When David arrived at the Israelite camp, the scene was chaotic. The soldiers were lined up for battle, shouting their war cries, but there was an undercurrent of panic. Just then, Goliath stepped out into the valley and repeated his defiant challenge. As his booming voice filled the air, David saw the Israelite soldiers fall back in terror. He couldn't believe what he was seeing and hearing. "Who is this Philistine?" he asked the men around him, "that he should defy the armies of the living God?" The soldiers explained the situation. They told him about Goliath's challenge and King Saul's promise to reward anyone who could defeat the giant. But David wasn't interested in the reward. He was outraged that this one man was causing the entire army of God's people to live in fear. David's older brother Eliab overheard him and grew angry. "Why have you even come here?" he scolded. "You should be back with the sheep. You just came to watch the battle." But David wasn't deterred. His heart was burning with a righteous fire. He knew something had to be done. David's passionate words soon reached the ears of King Saul. The king, desperate for any glimmer of hope, sent for the young shepherd. When David stood before him, Saul looked at the young man, his simple shepherd's clothes, and his youthful face. "You cannot go out against this Philistine to fight him." Saul saw a boy, but he didn't see the lion heart within. David's reply was firm and full of conviction. "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep," he began. "When a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the lamb from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair and struck it down. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God." David then delivered the line that sealed his destiny. "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." Hearing the unwavering faith in David's voice, Saul finally agreed. A flicker of hope was lit in the king's heart. "Go," he said, "and may the Lord be with you." Saul then tried to equip David for the fight. He placed his own royal tunic on David and put a bronze helmet on his head. He gave him his own suit of armor to wear. David strapped Saul's sword over it and tried to walk, but he couldn't. He wasn't used to such heavy, cumbersome gear. "I cannot go in these," David told the king, "because I am not used to them." So he took them all off. David knew that he couldn't rely on the world's idea of strength. He had to rely on his own skills and, most importantly, his faith in God, instead of a sword and shield. David walked down to the nearby brook. He bent down and carefully selected 5 smooth stones, placing them in his shepherd's bag. With his staff in one hand and his trusty sling in the other, he began to walk across the valley floor, straight toward the waiting giant. When Goliath saw David approaching, he was insulted. He saw a young boy, handsome and rosy-cheeked, carrying nothing but a stick. "Am I a dog?" Goliath roared, his voice dripping with contempt, "that you come to me with sticks?" He cursed David by his gods and bellowed, "Come here, and I'll give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field." The Philistine army let out a roar of laughter, confident that this would be over in seconds. But David was not intimidated. He stood his ground, his voice ringing out clear and strong across the valley, not with arrogance, but with absolute faith. "You come against me with a sword and a spear and a javelin," David shouted back, "but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head. Today I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel." With that, Goliath began to advance, his heavy footsteps shaking the ground. David didn't hesitate. He ran quickly toward the battle line to meet him. As he ran, he reached into his bag and took out one of his smooth stones. He placed it in his sling, and with a powerful, practiced motion, he whirled it around his head and let it fly. The stone shot through the air with incredible speed and accuracy. It struck the giant squarely on the forehead, the only part of him not covered by his heavy bronze armor. The stone sank into Goliath's forehead, and the giant staggered. For a moment he stood there, a look of shock on his face, before crashing to the ground, face down in the dirt. A stunned silence fell over the entire valley. Both armies stood frozen, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. The impossible had just happened. The shepherd boy had defeated the giant. David then ran forward, took hold of Goliath's own massive sword, and used it to end the giant's life, fulfilling the promise he had made just moments before. When the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they panicked. They turned and ran, with the Israelite army roaring in triumph as they chased after them. That day, a great victory was won not by an army's might, but by the courage of one young man and his unshakable faith in God. The story of David and Goliath is more than just a tale of an underdog winning a fight. It's a powerful reminder that our giants, the fears, the challenges, the obstacles that seem insurmountably never bigger than our God. And that true strength comes not from what we wear or what we carry, but from the faith we hold within our hearts. When we face our giants in the name of the Lord, we are never fighting alone. Thank you so much for watching. If this story inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more videos that explore the incredible stories of faith and courage. We'll see you in the next one.